It's one of the most violent places on earth, but just how democratic is the Democratic Republic of Congo, given its president was supposed to have left office back in 2016? I'll ask the country's controversial Minister of Communications, and we'll also debate the future of Germany's Angela Merkel. I'm Mehdi Hassan, also on the show. She's been called the new leader of the free world, but German Chancellor Angela Merkel has grown increasingly unpopular at home, struggled to form a governing coalition, and has been undermined by the rise of the far right. So how much is Merkel herself to blame for the problems she and Germany now face? That's our debate. But first, protesters shot dead, opposition figures exiled, and the internet shut down. All, some say, because the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, refuses to leave office. The country's constitution says elections should have been held in 2016, but the authorities keep postponing them. So what next for a nation that's still recovering from what's been called Africa's Great War? This week's headliner, Congo's Minister of Communications, Lambert Mende. Lambert Mende, thanks for joining me on UpFront. Your boss, Joseph Kabila, has been president of the Democratic Republic of Congo for 17 years, and you've had presidential elections in your country delayed for nearly 2 years now. Is he ever going to give up power and let someone else be elected president?
Well, as my president used to say often, you just read the Constitution of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and you find the answer. There is a provision within the Constitution that can tell you if he can step down or not. And it is written in the Constitution very clearly. And nothing will change in that Constitution. Under
the Constitution, there were supposed to be elections in 2016. Your government said there would be elections in 2016. Then they were delayed. We were told they would be in 2017. They didn't happen in 2017. Now we're told they should happen in December 23rd. I think December 23rd, 2018, at the end of this year. How do we know they're ever going to happen? Everybody knows that we had security challenges. I think you have heard about this terrorist offensive we had to face in North Kivu province, where even soldiers from UN died. You have already understood about what happened in Kasai with the Kamwina Sampo terrorist offensive. All these didn't make it easy. It jeopardized the whole that's the reason?
Exercises.
You haven't had elections?
Of course. You can't.
Because in previous interviews, you and your president have said the reason for no elections was the Electoral Commission, the Electoral Register, getting technical problems. Now you're switching and saying it's security. It seems to be you're looking for any excuse.
Security is a big issue. You can't organize elections where they are killing those people of the Electoral Commission. It is impossible. We had the problem of
So on that basis, you're never going to have elections because there'll never be perfect security in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
But we had to register electors. And when they start to register electors, we found a lot of provinces under attack, terrorist attack. And a lot of officials from Electoral Commission were killed. And they refused to go ahead with these electoral census that jeopardize the exercise. It is normal.
So you're saying now that we haven't had elections, you haven't had elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo for nearly 2 years now because of security issues. Here's what I don't get. You say that you want, safe elections, free elections without violence. Your president has said in the past, we want perfect elections, I believe is a phrase he's used. And yet in 2011, when he was re-elected for a second term, President Kabila, those elections were not considered free and fair by international monitors. You didn't care about free and fair elections in 2011 when he was being re-elected?
This is comment of people. We found
international monitors from the Carter Center and other groups.
This is not a country that belongs to a commentator from I don't know who.
So who decides whether elections are free and fair?
It is people of Congo who decide.
Okay.
And we decide that the elections were good.
The government that won decided the election was good.
I was elected a member of parliament and it was good. So let people say what they want.
But the people of Congo, you say, will decide what's free and fair. The people in Congo are protesting in the streets. They have been for the last 2 years against the delays in elections.
Who protests, my dear?
There are no protests?
We are having 12 million people in this town of Kinshasa.
Okay.
And there were not even 10,000 people protesting.
10,000 people doesn't count as a protest in your eyes.
We are having non-elected people trying to capture the top job.
So only elected people are allowed to
elections.
protest in a democracy. Is that your position?
My
That's a very bizarre definition
my
of a
position
democracy.
is that non-elected people cannot give the policy of a nation. Only elected
So you're
people.
against peaceful protests? Wow, that's very honest and a blunt statement.
Peaceful
I quite
protest,
admire
we
that.
lost policemen. They killed policemen, my dear.
Is it non-democratic to protest in the streets a delayed election?
It is
yes or no?
non-democratic to come with guns and to kill policemen.
Okay, but if you're peaceful,
in the streets.
what about the peaceful ones?
It was not peaceful.
So 10,000 people came out with guns?
You are not well informed.
Okay, so I'm asking for information, Minister.
Among
Simple
these
question.
thousands of people, you found some bandits.
Were there 10,000
Because
people
these
with
police,
guns?
These police people didn't commit suicide.
Minister, were there
They
10,000
killed.
people with guns?
They were killed and the police has the right
I'm not
to
disputing.
maintain order.
And many peaceful protesters was killed. Were 10,000
No,
people?
many who?
Okay,
Tell me the number.
Well, I'll first answer my
Tell me the
question.
figure.
That's how it works. I
Tell
ask
me
a
the
question.
figure.
I'll tell you a figure in a moment.
2 people died.
You said
on 21st.
Minister.
2 people died.
Minister, this won't work as an interview. Don't ask a simple question.
I have a report of the police.
Were 10,000 people carrying guns? That's all I'm asking. Simple
No,
question.
no.
So you accept there were non-violent
But
protesters?
some terrorists were among the protesters.
In every protest, there are
And
fringes of people who carried
Of
out
course,
violence.
and the police
but you're
did his job.
accepting that
And
they
they
were
killed the
non-violent
police.
protesters.
They killed the police.
And you killed non-violent protesters?
No, they didn't kill any protester.
Oh, really? Okay,
It is a lie.
It's a lie, okay.
Nobody can say
So
that they
France,
killed
the French
protester.
government says that you use lethal force against Congolese civilians. Amnesty says you used firearms against unarmed protesters. Human Rights Watch says that you
Human
fired at
Rights Watch.
point-blank range.
We have,
you know which
no,
governments don't like
we have
human
no
rights
problem
groups?
with amnesty. But we have a problem with a lady working with Human Rights Watch. Everybody knows.
Well, I'm glad you...
She had a problem with our immigration officers.
Okay, so you have a problem with Human Rights Watch.
Well, that is her problem.
Well, Minister, apart from the fact that
I
you're...
want to respond to that.
Apart from the fact that I'm having to repeat
Yes.
lots of questions, what I do admire is you do speak in a very blunt way. You said you have no problem with Amnesty International. This is what Amnesty says.
Yes.
The wanton disregard for protesters' lives, the unlawful use of force cannot be tolerated. The use of firearms against unarmed protesters contravenes Congo's obligations under international law.
Maybe they are not well informed. That is all.
Oh, my word.
That's all.
So now
That's
you
all.
dismiss Amnesty as well?
You should not go and take a report from somebody who has a problem with somebody.
But I
and
should
say
take a report
because
from
it
the
is
government that's killing the people.
It is Amnesty who said
So who should I believe,
it is
Minister?
true.
Who should I believe?
Police.
I shouldn't believe the French government,
should do
the
police.
US government,
French
Amnesty,
government.
Human Rights Watch, but I should believe the government
Congolese,
that's carrying out the
because
killings.
we are in the field, my dear.
Okay, so the
Nobody
UN...
died
okay,
while
so
protesting.
Okay, so let me ask you this
Yes.
question. A UN official, UN human rights official on the ground, was monitoring events, was thrown to the ground by security forces, kicked and punched, even though he was wearing a blue vest identifying as UN. Was he a terrorist as well?
I'm not aware of that.
Oh, perhaps you should get more information.
I'm not
Just
aware.
now you were telling me to get lots of information.
I'm
you
not
don't seem-
aware.
So you're
We
not aware of
receive
an attack on a UN
we
official
receive
reported by the New
all-
York Times?
No, we receive
Wow.
all information from our police
Maybe you
about
should read the
all
New York
these
Times.
incidents, but these we didn't have that information.
The reality is that the Congolese people, a lot of Congolese people support Kabila. A lot of Congolese people don't support Kabila.
It is democracy.
Indeed. And there was
I
a
know
poll,
it.
a
I
democracy without
acknowledge it.
elections.
Yes.
There was a poll done last year that showed 10% of Congolese people support the president. 38% say they'd back the exiled opposition
An
leader
elected
Moise
president
Katumbi.
supported by 10% of people?
Well,
Are you joking? When did you make this
no,
poll?
a poll was done, an opinion poll.
Who?
By the
Who did
Congo
it?
Research Group of NYU.
I have never seen those people
Wow.
making a poll in Congo.
Okay.
They are making polls here in New York or in Brussels or in Paris.
Okay.
This is
It's all made up.
Those are liars.
Wow, okay. So
Yes.
they're liars. The UN might be liars.
They are
Amnesty are
unhappy
liars.
because we
Human
went-
Rights Watch are liars.
because we
The
went
French
to look
government
for
are liars.
partnership with
The US
China.
government, you're the
We
only one
know
telling the
that
truth.
Some Western
Wow.
countries are unhappy because we are giving now partnership with
Western countries
China.
are unhappy.
Some partners like Belgium.
Okay.
And
What about
they
the
are-
respected head of the Catholic Church in your country who has compared life in Congo to living in an open prison?
We have
a devastating
no problem with the Catholic Church in Congo. Let me tell you.
They have a problem
the
with
truth.
you, it looks like.
We have problem with some prominent clergymen who are acting as politicians.
How about the head of the Catholic Church?
No, the Catholic Church does not have a head.
This is what he says. How can you
Any
kill...
diocese have its own
How
authority.
can you kill men, women, children, youths, and old people all chanting religious songs? This is what he says. Are we now living in an open prison?
I'm sorry.
Are we now living in an open prison?
Nobody were killed during demonstration.
Cardinal Laurent Masonga
Of
says,
course.
are we now living in an open prison? It's a very simple question.
It is the clergyman who is acting as a politician who said so, but not the Catholic Church.
Okay, so
and he was disowned by many other bishops under the Catholic Church.
So you just dismissed the bishop as well?
Him, we dismiss him.
Why? Because he doesn't like your business relationship with China?
He's a politician.
Okay. Do you fear your Congolese opponents? Is that why you don't let them protest freely?
Do you think that there is any country in this Central Africa, this part of the continent, where people can demonstrate freely as in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Give me a single
where hundreds of people are being shot dead?
100 people?
6 people were shot dead in January 2018?
6 is not 100.
Let's just do the maths then,
yes.
since you're challenging numbers. I love a few
yes.
facts. In December 2016, 62 people killed. No. In August 2017, 27 people killed.
Lie.
That's 89.
Lie.
Let's add on the 7 in December.
Without names?
That's 96. Let's add on the 6 in January. That's 102
Without
dead.
identity.
102 dead.
Just the figures.
And you're just dismissing your fellow Congolese.
Just the figures.
You don't seem to care.
Where is the names?
Why don't you read the reports by Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, Reuters?
People can be influenced and they write reports.
It's impossible to have a conversation with you because when I give you a fact, you dismiss it.
They can write fake reports.
It's fake news. You're borrowing President Trump's phrase.
They can write fake reports. I'm sorry.
How many have you killed?
There have been confrontation between terrorist elements.
You call them terrorists.
And our soldiers.
No one agrees with you.
No. In Kananga. Not in Kinshasa. Not in Kinshasa.
How many people have been killed?
Demonstration. Nobody were killed during the demonstration.
How many were killed?
5 terrorists were killed.
Since December 2016, how many people have been killed in protest?
Not even 10.
Really?
Not even 10. We have court-martial, the soldiers who have killed people out of the combat operations.
The problem is, you keep saying the facts are fake, information that your government is actually trying to control information. You shut down the internet. You prevent people from texting. Sounds like you're very worried about free protest.
You will not find a country where freedom of speech, freedom of expression more than Congo.
With respect, this is just
Black
nonsense.
Africa. You will not find.
You're just
Give me a single
name. You're just making nonsensical statements.
Give me a single name.
You're the freest country in Africa. Are you the freest country in Africa?
Give me a single name of a country. You are not able.
With respect, you're not interviewing me. I'm interviewing you. Who is?
There is not a single country.
Are you saying that your country
has
the freest speech in Black Africa, to use your phrase?
Yes.
So why did the EU sanction you, you're the Minister of Communications, for a, quote, repressive media policy
because of China.
that undermines the election process? You're now banned from traveling to the EU. You're banned.
This is lobby from Belgium, I know very well.
Okay. So
this is because of China, I know very well.
And why did the US government sanction officials in
I'm not sanctioned by the US.
But your colleagues are. Your colleagues are.
No minister was
Both
sanctioned.
the US and the EU have sanctioned members of your government, but apparently you're the freest government in, quote, Black Africa.
No.
I mean, this is why some of your statements are rather nonsensical.
We challenge that measures. We are challenging that measures.
Okay, you're challenging them. But right now you're sanctioned by the EU.
We have a problem with a country called Belgium.
Okay, but the US government says you're corrupt and prey on your citizens.
Maybe they are influenced by Belgium.
Okay,
why
wow,
not?
Belgium is a superpower these days.
No,
they can change the Trump administration's view on
they are
Africa.
making a lobby.
Here's what I don't get. The US government, the EU, the Belgian government, the French government, the Human Rights Watch.
Speaking of Belgium,
I'm not.
Don't extend to others.
I'm quoting the US government. Okay, me. I'm quoting the US government, the French government, the EU, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, NYU, the UN, the cardinals in the Catholic Church. You've dismissed them all.
No. Catholic Church is not.
Okay, one cardinal that you don't like in the Catholic Church, a very senior cardinal.
Yes.
Okay, you've dismissed all these people, which is your right. But what I don't get is why pretend that you're a democracy when no one thinks you are? Why not just say, you know what, we don't care what anyone thinks of us.
Democracy.
We don't care.
We are a democracy.
Why go through this charade?
We are a free people.
Where you say you're the freest country in Africa.
Yes, we are a democracy, but we are free to interact with who we want. And when we decided to interact with China, we got problems with Belgium because they are the former colonizer and they wanted us to remain in partnership with them.
So my question is, when all of this criticism from the international community is coming at you, why not just say we don't care? Why pretend that you're a democracy when no one thinks you are?
We are a democracy because we are. It is a matter of a fact. It is not a matter of opinion. It is not a matter of opinion of others.
That's how this interview began.
It is a matter of fact, my dear. It is not a matter of somebody saying you are a Democrat, so you are a Democrat. It is a matter of facts. Are we acting as Democrat? If yes, we are Democrat. Even if you don't think that we are Democrat, if factually we act as Democrat, we are Democrat indeed.
Lambert Mende, Thank you for joining me on UpFront.
Thank you.
Thank you. She's been called the de facto leader of the EU, the new leader of the free world, and even the most powerful woman on earth. But in her own country, German Chancellor Angela Merkel is more unpopular than ever before. She's been struggling to form a coalition government and last year lost a number of seats to the far-right nationalist AfD, or Alternative for Germany party. Speaking at the recent World Economic Forum in Davos, the German leader claimed she was doing all she could to get the populist wave under control. But is she? Or is Merkel the cause of it? And how do her current political struggles affect not just the future of Germany, but of Europe? Joining me to discuss this are Yascha Mounk, a lecturer on government at Harvard and host of the Good Fight podcast, and from Frankfurt, Ralph Bollmann, a journalist, historian, and author of the biography, The German, Angela Merkel and Us. Thank you both for joining me in the arena. Ralph, let me start with you. In the past, you've praised Angela Merkel's leadership. You even wrote in your 2013 biography that she was, quote, in perfect sync with the national mood. That isn't quite the case today, though, is it? Nearly half of Germans, according to the polls, say they want Merkel to resign. In 2017, she led her party to the worst result since 1949. Her era of dominance seems to be over, isn't it?
Yeah, there are two reasons, I would say. First of all, she is in office for 12 years, and that's lots of time, even for Germany. And of course, it's also a problem that forming the government is very difficult now, and that's not a very comfortable position for her. And the other reason, of course, is her refugees policy since 2000 or in 2015, when nearly 1 million refugees came to Germany, and of course that was a great push for the right-wing and nationalist AfD party. But well, I think that it's not the fault of Angela Merkel because there were few alternatives how to react in the situation we had in that year. Yeah, but of course, it's a consequence of her policy.
Okay, Yascha Mounk, it's to do with the fact that she's been in power for a long time. That's one of the main reasons why she's so unpopular now. It's not through faults of her own?
I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, once you've been in power for over 10 years, it's easy for people to sour on you. But I think the best line on Angela Merkel always used to be that she's minimally invasive. She doesn't really get on your nerves. And I think she still doesn't get on people's nerves in quite that way. It's not that they see her on the TV screens and they think, I just cannot stand to see this face anymore. I don't want to hear that voice anymore. I think people are recognizing that she actually hasn't shown real strategic leadership. And that's true across a whole range of issues. The refugee crisis is one moment where she seemingly had some kind of leadership, for she was actually buffeted by events to a remarkable degree. But the same is true on the Euro crisis, where she didn't clearly set out how Germany should deal with Greece and other countries. She sort of kept muddling through. The same is true with the rise of liberal populists in Poland and Hungary, where she hasn't shown real leadership. And I think people are recognizing now that the same is happening in coalition negotiations, which have dragged on without a clear word of leadership from Angela Merkel, without her saying, this is where we want to go and why, that she's not as strong a leader as has been claimed.
Ralph, she lacks real strategic leadership and she's been muddling through, says Yascha.
Well, yes, but I think that for her, that what you call muddling through is part of good political leadership. It's pragmatism and to see what is realistic. And if you take the Eurozone crisis, for example, the countries of Northern and Eastern Europe were not so much, or the people in these countries were not so much willing to pay money or to guarantee credits, to be more exact, for other countries in Southern Europe, and vice versa. People in Southern Europe were not very much attached to the idea of financial stability. And I think it was a really big political leadership, an act of political leadership, that Angela Merkel was able to find a compromise between these two positions.
Yascha, let me ask you this. She accepted 1.5 million migrants, asylum seekers, refugees in 2015 and 2016. Her critics say that open door policy backfired on her. people on the left actually praise her and say that was a humanitarian gesture. From a purely political, pragmatic viewpoint, was that a mistake in your view? And what were the alternatives, as Ralph has mentioned?
Well, I think one of the things that was a mistake in the migrant crisis, which is quite typical of her shortcomings, which is that she's not somebody who can actually set out a vision and hold a speech in order to get people on board, was a lack of communication. So what she did was quite bizarre. You would expect somebody who's actually committed to helping refugees to try and keep the door open while reassuring people that there is a limit and that she's taking steps to manage flows. What she did instead was the opposite, which is to say that she actually did what she could to stop the migrant flows. She struck a very dubious deal with Recep Erdogan of Turkey, for example, to make sure that no more migrants could actually reach Germany. And otherwise, she told the German public, there's no end to immigration and to the refugees. We will not have an upper limit. This is going to go on for however long it will. And I think one of the reasons why Germany turned against refugees so strongly is precisely that they had a sense of this is going to go on forever. And so then it'll change our country very quickly.
So if she had a clear vision.
If she had been very clear about the fact that there's going to be an end of this, I think that people would have been more accepting of refugee policy.
Yeah, I think that the main reason why she acted how she acted was simply Europe. She thought that Germany could not be the country which closes the borders. If Austria does that, that doesn't matter, but Germany cannot do that, and especially in the situation of the summer 2015, after the deal with Greece, where many people thought that Germany was too hard against Greece and Greeks. And so this was a main motive, but Angela Merkel didn't want to speak about that because she thought that this argument, Europe, was not popular enough among Germans. And that was why she only...
But isn't that what she's done every single time? Every single time she felt, I don't want to speak about this, I don't want to fight for this because I'm running after the opinion polls moment after moment. And that's made her very successful. It's allowed her to get re-elected a number of times, but it's also the reason why she hasn't actually solved any of the issues facing Germany. What's her legacy? In what way has she actually changed the country? You
mentioned political legacy. What is her legacy? Would you say that part of her legacy is the rise of far-right nationalists, the AfD, the Alternative for Germany party, which became the first far-right nationalist party to enter the German parliament since the Nazis? Merkel's vote share went down last year. Their vote share went up and they won seats for the first time on this level. Do you hold her responsible for the rise of such groups?
I mean, there's a case to be made there, right? You can say that because she has vacated the political right in Germany, because she's moved her party to the center, that left a space for the AfD. When you look around Europe, there isn't a single country with a system of proportional representation where some form of far-right populist party hasn't risen. So I think Germany was overripe for that, and that probably would have happened with a different chancellor as well.
Ralph?
Perhaps it's part of Angela Merkel's legacy, but it's not in the center of Angela Merkel's legacy. Her legacy is, in my view, that she managed to, with her muddling through, yes, of course, but to bring Germany and Europe quite safe through the recent 10 years of crisis. First of all, financial crisis, then Eurozone crisis, then Ukraine crisis. We were at the edge of a third world war when she started to talk with Obama, Putin, and so on. And then, of course, refugees crisis. And
so let me ask you
Germany
this, Ralph.
and Europe.
Angela Merkel, she's been in office nearly 13 years. We don't know how long she'll be in office for. Will she be remembered as a great leader who united Germany and Europe behind her, or as an overrated leader whose tenure ended in failure? How will historians judge her?
I think she won't be seen as a great leader like Helmut Kohl with very new things like reunification. But she will be seen as a great leader such as Helmut Schmidt, for example, a chancellor of crisis, who managed to keep Germany and Europe safe in a time of crisis. And I think when she is not there anymore, her popularity will rise again.
We're almost out of time. Briefly, Yasha, how will history judge Angela Merkel?
I think it's a very decent, very competent leader who didn't have a foresight and the strategy to actually confront some of the big crises that haven't really come home to hit yet, that right now aren't quite felt yet, but I fear will be over the course of the next decade.
Gentlemen, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you both for joining me in the arena. That's our show. UpFront will be back next week.